KPMG literally counseled the wealthiest Canadians to use offshore tax havens. They told Canadians, put your money into your assets into the Isle of Man tax-free haven, and then we'll help you recover them tax-free. Sounds pretty shady to me. Also sounded shady to the CRA, so they launched a criminal investigation which found that there was no wrongdoing, which clearly means we need to change the laws. So when will this government finally change the laws to make sure the wealthiest Canadians aren't able to use offshore tax havens and avoid paying their fair share and actually start contributing fairly like the rest of Canadians do?
The Honourable Minister of Revenue.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am very pleased to see how enthusiastic my colleague is in fighting tax avoidance. The CRA will continue fighting tax evasion both in Canada and abroad. We have a solid network of tax agreements. Our investments are showing results. It is increasingly difficult to hide money abroad, Mr. Speaker. I have a simple message for all those who are thinking of committing tax evasion. The CRA will find you wherever you are. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. KPMG advised people in Canada to use tax loopholes. The government has the power to end the legislation that permitted that type of action. Will the government finally do something to change the law to ensure that businesses pay their fair share, just like everyday Canadians? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to tell my colleague that the CRA is independent. I do not intervene in inquiries. I do not direct them. But it is a priority for our government to continue to work to fight tax evasion. That is why we have invested more than $2 billion, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to work hard to counter tax evasion and avoidance. Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, if you owe the CRA $20, they'll chase you down, but not companies like KPMG that help millionaires hide their income on the Isle of Man, a tax haven. We learned this morning that they were exonerated by the CRA, whereas in the States, for the same financial scheme in 2005, KPMG was fined and 9 executives had criminal charges brought against them. But here in Canada, not even a slap on the wrist. Why is the minister letting these companies use tax havens with impunity? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will say once again to my colleague across the way that more than $2 billion have been invested since 2015 in fighting tax evasion. But if my colleague wants to have a real impact on the results of inquiries, well, I'll be very pleased to send him a letter of reference so he can become an RCMP investigator. The Honourable Member for Mirabel.
Monsieur le Président, en 2017, quand...
Mr. Speaker, in 2017, when the minister was asked if charges would be brought against KPMG, she said yes, because people who create these schemes are also doing something criminal. But today, the CRA is letting them slip through its fingers. The minister is letting the fraudsters and KPMG get away with it. That's unacceptable. Under the Act, the minister can ask for a new inquiry and have an external investigator lead it to cast light on the situation. Will she personally order that inquiry? Or will she simply accept that KPMG orchestrate this tax avoidance on the Isle of Man? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, tax evasion and avoidance and fighting them have always been a priority for our government. I'd like to educate my colleague across the way because he's new, Mr. Speaker. I'll tell him that the CRA is an arm's-length agency. I do not manage inquiries, and I am not leading them, Mr. Speaker.